when it started out, again, use this center line you can see right there. Whether I used a straight edge or a template, just lined it up with the bottom of the page and just arbitrarily started with that line, and then picked the size of the template that I was going to use. So as you can see, it projected itself down a little bit smaller. And once I had that, then I was able to start this off. Whether you do it freehand or using one of these devices, then that's going to help. So once I had the center, I found the cross line, put that in just by adjusting the line there. So now I had a center line for all the shapes that are going to be on the top. The edge of this creamer, the lines that represent some of the text. So I gave it a base line and a height line that's on an elliptical shape, and that made it a little bit easier to see. And then now when I see this, I can just drop this down a little bit and heavy this line up, because this is going to be just the edge of this creamer. So I can go back up and actually heavy up the outline of this one here. So it's just a little trick. So that's over exaggerating the edge of that piece in the section there. The rest of them still placing a template out onto this side, but building up on this section. And you look at the grooves on the plastic piece here, and the reason those are there could be as decorative, but more than likely it's there for the strength of the product. By making it corrugated like that, it gives a little bit more structure to it to hold on to. Here's just a line using the straight edge and just making a mark at every indication. This is a 50 section for the engineer scale. So just made a mark going across, projected it vertical up to this edge, and then after having found the taper of the tangent from these two elliptical shapes, went ahead and just put a line. Now if you have extra paper, you can do that, or if it's on your sketchbook enough that you can see it. Just kind of placing it down here. So this is what they call a false vanishing point. It's just down to the bottom. And then from each of these, just kind of radiating it up. It's a way of projecting this up. So whether you do this with a ruler and like I'm doing it, or just visually understand how it's placed out there, it just gives the ridge going around this the feel of perspective there. So you're just putting the pencil there and stretching it across. So it's just the idea of projecting that image. And again, once I have this down as an outline, I can use whatever methods I can to strengthen that up. So I have this, whether this becomes freehand for a little bit. Builds this off for here, just to get some precise lines. I missed that one. That builds that top piece off. So for a linear part, it's pretty well placed together. Taking a look at this section, having these exterior ridges built up. So that gives me that section. So now just trying to project the label. Now what depends on which one you want to try. I sent them both to you. But just trying to say that design up here. So you have the lettering, and this is where you're trying to estimate what it's going to look like. So I have this section out here that's going to be the type wrapping around this piece. Inside have this graphic that's almost in the middle, so if I can find the center, place a little bit of this on here. So as soon as I get one, I'm just going to estimate it and just very lightly place a little bit of the text in there. Put another baseline and a height line for a couple pieces there. Put this in here pretty heavy. And any lines that I put in there go in this direction will build this up. So I'm putting this side. So all these lines for the base lines and the height lines are going that direction. Just kind of lightly placing it in there. And do the same with this. So just kind of setting that. I'm going to go back with a little heavier line. I just want to make sure that I lay this out pretty good. And here's this graphic for this cup. And just kind of, again, just kind of illustrating this down a little bit, and make it a little bit larger. So again, it's just giving you the lid part for that layout, and that's what I'll come back in and do and sketch out a little heavier. And the text is just giving you two lines, the bottom part for the section there, and then the script on this one. That sets that up. So for this part, and then it has this little Ideal logo right there. And then all the text around. So once I have that section, now I'm just going to backtrack and use a little bit of the drawing section for here. So now I can go ahead and shade this. And you'll notice that this has a pretty strong shadow cutting across this. There's a dark and a light, so I'm just going to build that section here. Getting these ridges going around. Builds that section there. And can do the same direction. Like I said, when you shade, the lines go with the form, coming across it. And this edge right there, kind of showing that off there. Now I might mix a little bit of the two labels together. And again, even though this has the type, try to treat it with just the shading and put the type on again a little heavier at the end. And build that part together. So just kind of treating it like a basic shape in the shadows, light edges up here. And like I said, it's a pretty light color, light values for it. And building that section in there. So now going back to this piece, straighten this out a little bit. So I could use a little bit of the straight edge there to help me, but right here it has the wording "for your coffee" right there. So trying to keep the straight edge down. Do a little bit of it here so you can get the idea. And you can also just use a piece of paper at the bottom there too. And just trying to get a sharp point there. Sets that up. And since this has the graphic, just go ahead and And sometimes if you do a straight edge, you can just rock it back and forth to get the angle for it. So it's tricky because you're trying to draw it at an angle at the same time keeping everything perpendicular to it. So that builds that section up. So it's a little bit at the angle side. And here, if you can just look at the lettering in box shapes, for example. And it builds that for you. I'm just going to drop down. Again, once you get the angle for the perspective of this, it makes it a little easier. I'm just going to do a little thin line first. So it's kind of lined out with that one. Just kind of laying it in there. So, and again, it's kind of a slight detail, and that really sets off that selection there for it. So try doing this one. Ultimate. Ultra pasteurized. That gives you a little bit of that, and like I said, I'll come back and just touch up a little of the lettering and doing this outside ring, and then you can go back and really take a look at this shaded part. But see how you can place that out there, that section right there.